Alright, I know it's been a very, very long time since I uploaded my last video, but I've been busy with school and shit, but this summer I'm going to be uploading on this channel at least weekly, hopefully, fingers crossed. I have a vision for this channel, and I'm going to be covering kind of the weirder moments of boxing, and I hope to be kind of like the Jimmy High Roller for boxing, who knows. I'm going to be talking about like really weird stories that I think are really interesting, and today I think I have a pretty interesting video for you guys. So with Triple G Canelo 3 coming up, me and my friend were talking about the first fight, which was very, very competitive, and some may say it was a robbery for Triple G. But that's not the point of this video. We're gonna go down a deep rabbit hole that's probably been covered countless times on YouTube. But today, we're going to be talking about, in my opinion, the worst robbery in boxing. Now, this is just my opinion. I'm just here to state my case. I'm not arguing that this robbery was worse than the others, but in my opinion, this was the worst. I know there's some that come to mind, like Lennox Lewis versus Holyfield, Roy Jones Jr. at the Olympics. These have been really bad robberies that can have a video of its own, but this is probably the worst one that I can remember. Today we're going to be covering Manny Pacquiao versus Jeff Horn. Now let's go back to the summer of 2017. Pacquiao is probably towards the tail end of his career, but he was still coming off of two pretty good wins against legit guys. He was coming off a unanimous decision against both Jesse Vargas and Timothy Bradley. And speaking of Timothy Bradley, Manny Pacquiao versus Timothy Bradley 1 was probably regarded as one of the worst robberies in boxing, but I would definitely say this one is much worse. Anyways, Manny Pacquiao was far from his prime, but he was still pretty good and still had the WBO championship belt. And on the other side, we have Jeff Horn, who at the time was only fighting in Australia or New Zealand, very interesting, was the title holder of the IBF and WBO Intercontinental Welterweight Championship, which in other words means he had a bullshit belt, but this was his first chance to get a real belt from obviously a really good opponent. So July 2nd, 2017, this fight would take place, and who would have guessed? Queensland, Australia. And not even Queensland, Australia, but Brisbane, Queensland, Australia, which so happens to be Jeff Horn's hometown. So before going into the fight, Manny Pacquiao was a minus 550 favorite, which basically means if you were to wager $550, you would only see $100 back. In other words, a lot of people had Manny Pacquiao winning, and I don't think anybody would have seen what was yet to come. So we opened the fight with the first round, and it was probably one of the most interesting first rounds I've seen in a while. So I haven't watched this fight since I watched it live, which was back in 2017, but I knew the outcome of this fight. Rewatching it now and seeing that first round really shows, or I should say foreshadows, what was yet to come. So I think Horn had the game plan of just fighting Manny in the inside. So he was pressuring and backing up Manny almost immediately. I'm not gonna lie, Jeff Horn did have some moments in there. He had a couple flurries that may or may not have landed a couple punches, but he was really, really sloppy. Manny was able to time him towards the end of the round and even knocked his mouthpiece out with a jab. But what was very interesting was this one exchange where Jeff Horn actually would push Manny's head down and like shove him with his right arm. And you remember what I said about foreshadowing? Well, this wasn't gonna be the only time Jeff Horn did this. Despite all the dirty boxing, I still think that Jeff Horn won this first round just because Manny was trying to process and time Jeff Horn's fighting style. So because of these moments of inactivity, Jeff Horn was able to land a couple body shots and just land more punches overall. Onto the second round, it was really, really clear that Manny Pacquiao had the timing down. Every time Jeff Horn would pressure Manny or try to go into the inside, Manny would hit him with a clean left hand. But on the off chance that Jeff Horn was able to make it into the inside, there would be a lot of head clashing. But besides the head clashing and the clinches, I would say Jeff Horn didn't do enough in this round like he did in the first, Manny was able to get the timing down and land cleaner shots. Thus, I'd give the second round to Manny. Though Jeff Horn was much more active in the third round, Manny Pacquiao landed much more clean shots. Manny was just countering very, very well. Horn would try to pressure Manny and try to smother him, but every single time, Manny Pacquiao had a clean left hand or just a really well-timed jab. But the most important part of this round was the dirty tactics Jeff Horn used. So Manny Pacquiao would go under Jeff Horn's left hook or right hook and basically slip out of those punches. But sometimes Jeff Horn would feint a hook, and instead of throwing a hook, he would lean his whole arm on Manny's neck, and he would just hold him there. He wouldn't even punch. And obviously, the ref didn't do anything about this and actually told Manny to keep his head up. But despite this, again, Manny landed the cleaner shots and obviously won this third round. So I'm not going to go into the next couple of rounds with complete detail because it's kind of more of the same. Jeff Horn, dirty tactics, Manny Pacquiao, clean shot. There's a point in the fourth round where Jeff Horn literally just got into the clinch to trip Manny Pacquiao to the ground. And the thing is, Manny is too nice. Every time something dirty happens to him, he's just going to smile. And again, fifth round, more of the same thing. Manny was landing very, very clean shots. I mean, just look at the punch stats through the fifth round. Look at the disparity. It's insane. Now, the sixth round was a little more interesting. There's an accidental headbutt around the beginning of the sixth round, and I would say it was legitimately accidental, but it ended up with a huge cut on Manny Pacquiao's head, and he was just leaking the whole fight. And there's a moment where Jeff Horn landed probably his best punch of the fight. It was a clean right hand that momentarily put Manny Pacquiao on the back foot. So even though Jeff Horn landed that huge right hand, that was basically it from Jeff Horn. Manny Pacquiao still landed more frequently and more clean. So I'd easily give this round to Manny Pacquiao. Seventh round was a little more interesting. I think Jeff Horn was a little more active, and there's an accidental headbutt again where Manny Pacquiao was just leaking at this point, which allowed Jeff Horn to land huge shots on the left side of Manny Pacquiao where he was bleeding. Eighth round, nothing really special happened on either side. Both Manny Pacquiao and Jeff Horn didn't really do much in this round, but Pacquiao again was still able to land much cleaner shots and make Jeff Horn miss some more. So the ninth round is probably the most exciting round out of this fight, and probably the round that you remember the most. I remember watching this round and thinking, this dude cannot miss. Manny was just absolutely saucing Jeff Horn with every single punch he threw. I mean, listen to Teddy Atlas in the middle of this segment.
And as he's starting to melt a little, it looks like a puddle in the summer that's evaporating right in front of you.
So after Teddy Atlas loses his shit, by the end of the round, Jeff Horn looks like this, absolutely battered. I thought this round was a pretty clear 10-8 round for Manny Pacquiao. He was just absolutely destroying Jeff Horn, landing almost everything towards the last minute of the round, and Jeff Horn could not answer. Going into the championship rounds, I would probably give the 10th round to Jeff Horn, actually. I thought Manny didn't really do much. I think he was low-key gassed just because he expended so much energy in that ninth, and Jeff Horn landed probably some of his more cleaner shots in this round. The 11th round was back to the usual. Manny Pacquiao was just landing that laser left hand over the top, and Jeff Horn didn't land anything of significance in this round. So in the 12th and final round, pretty much the same thing happened. Pacquiao was able to land very clean and crisp shots, while Jeff Horn was missing a bunch. So this is what my scorecard looks by the end of the fight. It was basically a shutout for Manny Pacquiao. I only gave Jeff Horn the first round when there was not too much going on and Jeff Horn was able to land a couple body shots. I gave him also the 7th round when Manny Pacquiao got cut, and Horn definitely maximized his opportunity there. And I gave him the 10th round when Manny Pacquiao kind of let off the gas pedal for a little bit when he almost finished him in the 9th. So this is what the totals look like at the end. Pacquiao 117, Horn 110. Again, pretty much a shutout for Manny Pacquiao, even a 10-8 round in the 9th when he almost finished him. And when I was researching this topic, I think most people had it 117, 111 for Manny Pacquiao. Teddy Atlas had it 116, 111. Most people had their score for Pacquiao in this general region. So here comes the fun part where we look at the official judges' scorecards. Look at this travesty, man. Literally one of the judges is my scorecard flipped almost. The other two judges, I don't know where they're seeing 115, 113 for Horn, but let's take a look at it closer. So a couple things stand out. I think the first thing that stood out to me was rounds 4 through 7, where it was basically a shutout on all judges' scorecards. Look, I wouldn't give that 6th round to Jeff Horn just because he landed that one clean shot. I watched that round like 3 times, and I do still think Manny Pacquiao landed more frequently and much cleaner. The 7th round, I do see how Jeff Horn could have won that round because I also gave it to him. But for rounds 4 through 6 to go to Jeff Horn is insane. So one of the main scoring criteria for judges is effective aggression. So effective aggression isn't just necessarily backing down your opponent and being more active, but it also means landing cleaner shots and doing more damage to your opponent. What I think happened to these judges is that they saw activity, but they didn't necessarily account for effective activity. If we look at the punch stats through the 5th, and like I said before, the 6th was kind of an extension of those last 5 rounds, Jeff Horn was consistently landing like 15% of his shots, even throughout the whole fight, not just through 5 rounds, but at the end of the fight, CompuBox had him landing only 15% of his shots. So the consensus for the general public was that Manny Pacquiao was clearly robbed. However, in Australia, he was the media darling. I mean, look at how many awards and recognitions he won in 2017. The Sport Australia Hall of Fame Don Award and inspired the people of Australia, the Queensland Sports Star of the Year, the Sporting Moment of the Year by the Australian Institute of Sports Awards. Media was trying to paint Jeff Horn as some type of underdog story. The Australian media loved highlighting that he was a former teacher before he was a boxer. But the story they were trying to paint wasn't even original. Like, this was the plot of Here Comes the Boom. But at least that story had Salma Hayek, and Kevin James won his final fight fair and square. So what do you guys think? Was this one of the worst robberies in boxing history? I don't know. Leave your comments down below. Again, subscribe. I'm going to be uploading very consistently on this channel. Maybe not frequently, but definitely consistently. I hope once a week will suffice. Who knows? I'm going to go hard in the paint this summer. All right, peace.